Just a great question. Thanks for keeping this party going, ASAP. How was DARPA? Hmm. Okay. Well, how do I how do I speak about DARPA? I speak about it as an ex-girlfriend almost. I was kind of obsessed with DARPA when I was a kid, which sounds weird maybe, but I always thought that was cool. That and if you don't know, uh, NASA was spun out of DARPA in the 50s. So basically, as the story goes, a little story time for people. The Soviet Union in the 50s launched Sputnik, and so in the 40s in World War II, we were ahead. We dropped the nukes. We had nukes before the Soviets. We even deployed them. We built more of them, and we were arrogant and happy and confident. And in the 50s, Sputnik hit the skies over the United States, and anybody with a radio could hear the pinging. Supposedly, I mean, I'm sure the signal wasn't great, but it was enough to do the headlines and across the United States. And Eisenhower and the administration was like, "How did this happen? How did the Soviets get the drop on us Americans? It's unacceptable. We stole all the best German scientists. We have, the best people in the world here. How is America losing?" So they started DARPA. And DARPA was started by it was run by uh, Bush, Vanhoover Bush. Is that how you say his name? Anyway, the history lesson aside, DARPA's done a bunch of cool things over the history of the United States. So they basically launched the space program. When NASA was still like a startup operation, it was at ARPA. It was called ARPA and then renamed to DARPA later. Advanced Research Project Agency, which later became Department of Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and then it went back and forth a few times. So their claim to fames include the rocket program that got us to the moon, the stealth fighter, which is a Lockheed Martin project, often referred to as the Skunks Work project, which was an internal name for that. For the if you ever heard of the F-117, the black triangle thing, the stealth fighter. Let me just throw up a picture. So I mean, we could do images and voice. We have the technology. Yeah, this guy. It's sort of your classic picture of a stealth fighter. So this thing has a cool story behind it. I read a few books on it. I won't retell it right now, but it's cool because it's like it's a story of like pure math theory into applied a working. I mean, in this case, a working weapon, but something that works in like with the laws of physics and exceeded the technology of anything else on the planet. So anyway, they have this. They have the NASA project, and they also claim credit for the internet because they were funding basically computer networking research, technically starting in the 60s, but meaningfully in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, the Blackbird is a cool one too. That one looks more like the X-Men thing that they oh Blackbird SR-71. Yeah, which has that was another you were right. That was another DARPA project that was very cool, and the idea was it could fly faster, further, in the edge of atmosphere. And if you watch the new X-Men movies, I feel like they always model the X-Men jets off this guy. So I gotta crack this down. I don't know why the music's so loud in my ears. It's probably not that loud in your guys' ears. How does this fit on your head, man? I'm in awe. Well, I probably have certain kinds of intelligences, that have shoved other kinds of intelligence out of my skull. So there's probably things I'm bad at. I appreciate the compliment. That's nice. I'm also I've always been interested in this stuff. Like I said, I was weirdly interested in stuff as a kid. I was obsessed with how technological progress works. Like, how does humanity lurch forward? You know, to me, it seems like the great existential problem that we can actually tackle from an engineering point of view. Like, we can't really solve death. There's a lot of things we can't really do, you know, even in the short or even medium term. So I was always interested in this stuff. So I really liked reading about like the Manhattan Project, not because they were dropping bombs on people, but because it was this really insanely top-down organized effort that unlocked the power of an atom. I mean, we were like pre-nuclear and then we were post-nuclear. You know, we didn't quite even know what an atom was, and then we had nuclear reactors, nuclear reactor submarines, nuclear bombs, but we got MRI scanners from nuclear science. We got a lot of good things too. And nuclear power plants, which people can argue might be one of the better solutions. I don't know the details. I mean, nuclear waste is a problem too, I know. But anyway, that was always my fascination. Like, you know, how do we do that now with like fusion? You know, so I was always kind of a big believer in like the nationalism arguments of these big projects, because the Manhattan Project, because of DARPA, I always, you know, I used to read about DARPA all the time and how do people become program managers. I talked to some program managers when I was in grad school. They kind of softly recruited me a few times. I just basically, the short of it is I became a little jaded about it all. It's not that they're particularly bad. It's just they're no better than a lot of funding agencies in the United States. There's a lot of there's just a giant gap between hype and our targets and what we actually accomplish or what we can actually do. And people there, like the majority of them, aren't really that interested in the tech. Like, they're not real believers. Like, I'm the idiot because I kind of was really a big believer in it. I understand like the reality of life and stuff is like you worry about your salary, you worry about your careers and all that stuff. But so DARPA program management is interesting because it's only for 4 years and then they kick you out, which is cool. They claim it's a very flat hierarchy, so you have like 100 program managers organized under like 6 offices, and then all those deputy directors report to one director. And usually when there's a new administration, they replace the director. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to articulate all this on the spot, but I worked in a DARPA funded lab. We did a kind of a cool project with virtual reality and fMRI, where I was predicting what people were recalling. So I had people memorize a bunch of objects in virtual reality, and then in the scanner I was asking them questions that prompted them questions about these objects. So like, you know, think of these 2 objects, how far apart are they? Think of these 2 objects, I don't know, stuff like that, different features of memory. And then I was using, I don't know if there's any machine learning people left on the chat, and I won't get into it, but I was using multivariate pattern analysis, which was kind of new back then. This is like 2014. Now it's like getting actually more mainstream in my field. And then I was doing some sort of further advances on that. Doesn't matter. It's a DARPA funded project, technically mind reading, but it wasn't really mind reading because it's kind of like, it's analogous. Like if you leave your car in South Florida in hurricane country and a class 5 hurricane slams into it and your car alarm goes off, is your car a hurricane sensor? Like, I guess. Is that really functionally useful though? Like, it's a little like that, you know? It's like with EEG we can detect like grand mal seizures pretty easily. We can detect some like hemispheric seizures, like they call them tonic-clonic. There's different ones, but we can't even do that well, because at the end of the day, neurosurgeons crack open people's skulls who have recurring seizure problems, and they put arrays on the surface of their brain and leave them in the neurosurgical ICU for a few days and hope they have a seizure so we can record it and see where it started. So they don't do that non-invasively. They do this really dramatic procedure because our ability to detect these things are actually not that good. And then the surgeon literally is going to go and cut that piece of your brain out. I mean, that's how medicine works currently at that level. So anyway, that I was just talking about mind reading. So that's one dark project I did. And then later, I left academics. I was trying to make some money because grad school, you make like, if you're at a good program like me, which I was lucky, you make 30K stipend. And a postdoc, you make barely any more than that. And I don't know, it's, after a while, you're whatever. So I was trying to make some more decent money. And after maybe a year or two, I kind of got bored with my job, and I was trying to, I ended up doing some independent contracting with them again. So yeah, I don't know. They're cool because they're willing to take high risks on things. Like, people like me don't fit super well into academics because I'm like, I would say I'm ambitious and like more visionary, but the truth is I'd say I'm more sci-fi and less grounded sometimes. And the real academics, the ones that thrive and persist and win grants, they're really good at very incremental things, and then kind of blowing that up and selling it well. It's like they constantly talk about, they constantly talk as if they're rediscovering like human platitudes, like truths that humanity's known, in our literature and other things for thousands of years, and stories, so that's anyway. I'm rambling. So yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I wanted to work with them. I wanted to work with them as a kid, and I got to work with them a couple times. And I got even offered positions to go consult for them. Actually, a few years ago, a lot of their stuff actually is not classified. But a few years ago, they opened up a biological tech office, and they wanted me to be their technical advisor. But it seemed like kind of like more secretarial work, to be honest. It was like there's already major projects going on at all the major schools you can think of, like Johns Hopkins, like the famous schools. And so they just kind of refund the same people or the same universities under different project titles. So it's kind of like the problem I had with VC. There wasn't a genuine like exploration and evaluation process. And yeah, I kind of assumed that's how it would be. And yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I thought DARPA was really cool. It was like they had in theory, they had flat hierarchy. They're really fun, risky things. They have this philosophy of, if you're not failing a lot, you're not doing it right. Because what they mean is they shouldn't be funding things that are super safe and secure and incremental. It's cool that they exist in the hierarchy of the U.S. government funding agencies compared to like NIH, which is insanely conservative. Which doesn't mean they're funding things that work, actually, but anyway, yeah. Also, I realized over time too, I'm not crazy about oh, thanks guys. Not rambling, reinforced. Awesome. Thanks, you. Appreciate it. Yeah, they also, I guess part of it is, I learned about myself over time. Like, I'm not very good at bureaucratic stuff, administrative stuff. You kind of always think like the move up in a company is to go higher into management. But then you realize management is having lots of meetings and and there's a lot of people who like that stuff. You know, they thrive on like the complexities of social interaction and task management and these kind of things. And I don't know, I don't think I have the temperament for it. And I didn't really know that. So